Hi, welcome to our journal tour, and I'm actually going to be touring January as well as February, so this is going to be a bumper tour. This was the sketchbook that I started in January. It's a Sea White of Brighton sketchbook. I love these books. I love the paper in them. They're not watercolour, but they're thick enough to withstand water mediums. It will buckle very slightly, as you can see, but I don't mind that. So these first few pages, you can tell I was just trying to find my flow. I wasn't really sure what I was doing. I was drawing. I was trying to kind of play around with colour. But I think mainly I was just trying to fill some pages and just get into a groove. You can see that I love the idea of abstract and using colour and painting. So that was very much kind of where all these pages started in January. And it just goes to show that sometimes you need to take that first step and you need to just start in order to then find a groove. So I started drawing like really detailed flowers as well. So this was something that I knew I wanted to combine, was a lot of colour work as well as practicing my drawing style, my drawing skills, and getting in like all these details. So again, just colour. These look to me like base backgrounds, like you could do a lot on top of these, but I've just left them as is. This again feels like a base sort of layer. And this is where things start to get sort of interesting, where I've combined mediums. I've got pencil lines in here. These are mainly my Neocolor 2s. So I water activate them. I scribble the crayon on first and then water activate them. And then this was when I really started to combine these methods. So I really love this kind of juxtaposition of fine detailed drawing and abstract colour. And this is really where I'm heading, I think, with my work. So this is where I try to pull things in together. This is a lot of kind of the work that I've done over the last year or so as well. So just playing around with patterns, playing around with composition on the page, so how the colour fits in, sort of the balance of, so like this has more colour. So kind of more of a 50-50. So here again I could draw into this. So this is a page definitely not finished. And again, it feels like just the initial kind of preliminary base layer that's been put down. But I really love working like this, and I love this idea of almost like an inner landscape, this kind of connecting the inner and the outer and sort of expressing how you're feeling through that. This is when I moved really into sketching flowers and florals, and I've discovered I really love this. So for a long time I didn't allow myself to draw flowers, and when I track that back, I realised that when I was at uni, one of our tutors actually said to us, don't draw flowers, everyone draws those, so try to draw other things. And that stuck with me so much, to the point where I've never allowed myself to actually draw florals. Something else, when I was at uni, I did textile design and I specialised in weaving. And so a lot of that is texture based and colour based. So again, I was discouraged from drawing anything that's too kind of lifelike. It was more about pulling out patterns, say like a pattern in the leaf or a pattern in the petal, and using that as my inspiration to create a woven fabric with. So it's taken me a long time. I graduated in 2010, so it's 2023 now. So it's taken me like 13 years to unravel that and actually allow myself to try and find the art that I want to make without having these boundaries that other people have put on me. So this is what I'm really loving as well, this real kind of mixture of, there's some real doodly patterns in here, but also the florals, and the idea of making this like a mandala orb like I've drawn before. Here I've got one. This I did years ago, and this is the kind of work that I love doing. This was just ink, so very basic kind of colour work, really easy, really fun. So this is what I want to really explore this year, and that's what's inspiring all of this work. So I feel like some of these patterns in here are really fun, but they're quite simple and primitive, which is nothing wrong with that at all. But I really want to explore my drawing style a bit more and really push my boundaries with my drawing. And I really want to play with scale with these. That's kind of a long-term plan for this year, to create some big artworks which are full sort of mandala orb in the center with the color, and then have all these beautiful drawings around the edge. So that's kind of where I'm heading. But I'm really enjoying playing around in my sketchbook. So that was all of January's exploration. So you can see just in 1 month how quickly things developed. So just by playing around with what look to me like very messy, scribbly, not finished pages, it really developed quite quickly into me finding actually what I'm really enjoying and the direction that I wanted to take things. And it was just allowing myself that time and space to explore both, because let's face it, abstract art and detailed drawing almost contradict each other. So it's interesting to me that I want to be exploring both avenues of this, almost like the really tight controlled drawing versus this real freedom of letting loose and letting the colour really explore the page instead of me trying to control the outcome. So we're moving into February now. So this is the month that I've just completed. And again, sort of trying to find a way to marry these two things together. So exploring colour first and then drawing on top. And you can see I've started to try and colour in, just using pencils. I think this was colouring pencils, trying to colour in some of my motifs to see how I feel about that, and sort of drawing over the top of the colour. So I'm really playing around with scale and composition, trying to push the boundaries with not being so tight with my drawings as well. So being really scribbly, almost like a child. There's something about the way that children draw which is so freeing and beautiful, and I love it. I love that they just don't overthink it. They're not worrying about the final outcome. They'll draw a little stick man with with funny things around him, and it's just completely expressive and it's completely in the moment. So yeah, that's kind of the essence as well of what my abstract work I want to bring in. This was playing around again with trying to bring colour into these like drawn motifs, and I sort of made a pattern across the page, sort of unintentionally really, but it was more exploring again the Neocolor 2s. I don't have a lot of control with those, but then drawing in over the top with pencil and just seeing if I like that. I quite like this. So just seeing the outcomes really, and then how that kind of translates with just the black fine line, which I feel like is my comfort zone. It's definitely a comfort zone thing, that black fine line. I could draw like that for days. So again, thinking about having the colour flowing through the centre and then drawing around the edges, and not really having any meaning to this work. I'm just trying to find the relationship between how I can marry these two together and how they can kind of create something visually pleasing, but with, I don't know, with this kind of composition, an interesting composition. So again, just playing with colour and colour combinations. I tend to go for these sort of blues and greens. Again, very instinctively, that's sort of my comfort zone. So trying to bring in more of these warmer tones, which are really beautiful, but they're very much out of my comfort zone. So here, this is actually one of my most favourite pages in this sketchbook. And it was completely me holding the pen a lot looser, just letting the pen flow almost in a continuous line on the page, not trying to overly get all these details in, and just layering different drawings next to each other. And then I use the colour in between, which sort of seems to pull it all together as one spread. But it was so interesting to me, this overall kind of finished look. And you can't even really tell, it's more suggestive that say this is a bud, and it's got this kind of sense of movement and fluidity in it. I think it's really interesting. And then here, compared to sort of going back to very detailed drawing, very much trying to control. So it was interesting that I have this kind of inner battle within myself of wanting the picture to be perfect and look really lovely versus letting myself or allowing myself to just explore what else these forms have, what other shapes these forms could take. So really trying to loosen up a bit. So here again, using colour and playing around with where I position things on the page. So it's quite nice working in this double spread and having almost nothing on this page and the focal point here. So playing around with composition a little bit. And again here, I really love this. I really like this kind of, we go from complete monochrome into multicolour, and I really like that transition that creates. And yeah, just again playing around with Neocolor 2s as like a watercolour wash, and then scribbling on top with coloured pencil. You can see all the marks there, so trying to get some marks and a feeling of texture on the page as well. Again here, yeah, not finished, but trying to think about how I can create a sense of movement on the page as well, like where it's leading your eye. And yeah, trying out that same technique from here as well. So just playing around again and just letting myself draw. I've done just a lot of drawings, and I use Pinterest actually, if I'm honest, as reference photos. So these are great for just, you know, sketching out. I'm not trying to copy it exactly, I'm trying to loosen up and just find this kind of freedom in my drawing, and layering up different images as well to create my own image. And it's not really trying to say anything, I'm just trying to explore my drawing style. Again, finding something that was quite tight actually, and then trying to sort of let go and flow a bit. I have discovered that drawing these flowers here with the tiny, like, are these stamen, pollen parts anyway, these style of flowers I really love to draw. I find them really easy. You can see here again trying to play around with composition and the idea of having a coloured orb in the centre. So here we go, playing around with this. This is, I'm really pleased with this. I really loved drawing this, and again using all these detailed patterns. It brings in a real depth as well, having that deep black versus the colour. So yeah, a lot of play then with layering things up. Working with florals is something that I've really enjoyed, and I'm looking forward to going out into nature as well over the coming months as the weather warms up here, and really drawing from life. Buying bouquets of flowers as well, it's a great way to draw from life. This was interesting. This is me trying to push the boundaries of my colour work again, just playing, really trying to layer. So layering on top with a lot of coloured pencil over what was quite a warm wash. So this pink was the background colour, and then I used all these greens and blues to come in over the top. And again, it was just trying to push my boundaries of the way I create and how I create. For example, this, so I really liked how this came out. I was trying to see if I could create a wash in the background that was kind of abstract. So I've got all these weird lines coming through it and drawing over the top. And I don't think it was very successful, but it was definitely worth trying. Again, just playing around with things that I'm drawing. So then trying seed heads and a butterfly. Leaves as well. I really love drawing oak leaves. And then, yeah, playing around again with sort of this mandala orb style drawing. This was then, I've still got a few pages left in here which I am going to work through, but this was when I discovered that actually I wanted to start doing the 100-day project. This is a challenge that's on Instagram. You can just search the hashtag 100-day project. And so I bought myself a new sketchbook to work in for that. So I will show you all the work I've been doing in here over the last week. So we're only at the very beginnings of this project, which is very exciting. And again, I'm just kind of following on from what I have been doing. I chose an A4 sketchbook this time because I loved working in this size as a double page spread, but you always have this line down the center and it doesn't quite rest flat. So I bought an A4 sketchbook. It's spiral bound again, so I can kind of move this out of the way, tuck it underneath. So I'm just working on a really nice flat, what I would call a double spread, but the same size, but just without this crease in the center. So again, playing around with color a little bit more. Something I want to start working with is just full pages of color. I really like this, what's going on here, the sort of darker versus lighter. And I noticed as well that where there's the white seems to really draw you in. So this is lighter here, and we've got obviously this here as well. So it's interesting what the eye follows. This I was trying not to use my black fine line, and I'm not really very happy with how this turned out, but it was interesting for me to try a pen instead. So I was working with a Tombow pen and just using that as my sketching pen. But I quite like what's happening in the background. So again, using Tombow pens, which is kind of a fairly new medium for me, and layering that up with my Neo colours and my coloured pencils as well. So interesting. I like the bright pink as well. That's really come through. There's something about pink and blue which I really love the relationship between. So it was really fun. And again here, look, the pink and the blue. So really bringing back in this black motif, which I've used a lot over the years, like this, and this kind of contrast in here of having the black and the white. So this is something that's starting to come back in now. And I'm really enjoying working like this. And there's also this one here where I've tried to pull the black into the center. So it was interesting that it's helped to marry these two together, which were actually two separate sketches, and it's created more of like one overall piece. And oh yeah, I do have one more page that I've started, which is just completely abstract page. So again, trying to play around with color, thinking about, is there ways that I could maybe collage, like cut things out and collage with them, trying to find what sections I really like and why. So for example, there's something interesting going on here. I think it is quite busy versus there's not much going on here, but again, I love that relationship between the blue and the pink. So yeah, just interesting, and trying to take note as I go of the things that are standing out to me, what I'm enjoying, what I'm not enjoying so much. And yeah, so my plan is to fill this up over the coming months for the rest of the 100-day project. So I will have more of this sketchbook to share with you at the end of March. So thank you for watching. I hope you found that inspiring, and I will see you guys next month over on Patreon for another chatty sketchbook tour. Before we go at the end here as well, I just wanted to share with you that this is the March postcard print. I'm really pleased with how this has come out. This was the original spread in my sketchbook, and this is the print that you can get on the postcard tier over on my Patreon as the exclusive print for the month. It will be signed on the back as well, signed and dated. But yeah, these will be part of a new collection of prints that you can collect over the coming months and display on your wall, on your desk, in your workshop, in your studio space, and enjoy.